Oh, Chuck. Yeah, I'm. Yeah, kind of a. Oh, no, no, sorry.
Thank you. It's a first. Sorry.
Well, I can swim, but I've never swum while wearing a suit jacket and shoes. Last minute song. Oh my God. I thought I was clear.
Hi, how
No,
are
I
you?
am not clear. How are you?
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Good, how's it going? How's the life?
Nice.
Looks great.
That's what I
Looks
do
great.
every day. And that's it.
Nice. That's
Oh,
the
wait.
life.
I coach Erie County.
Do you? Really?
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
coach the team here.
That's great. Good
Yeah,
for you.
it's fun.
Yeah.
They take my season in from the middle of September to the beginning of March.
What's that, yeah?
I get paid less to coach here than I get for all students.
Yeah, well, media.
Yeah,
So we're 1 minute out. Mark.
That's really,
11.
that's really, really
I
intense.
said I'd do it for fun, and that's
But,
all.
right, then that's it.
Then
That's
I
it.
claimed it. Yeah. How are you doing?
Good, really
Are
good.
the kids?
Great.
Good.
Great. Yeah, they're actually taking some lessons right now from Anna Ocasio.
Good.
Yeah, so she's teaching them how to swim right now. So yeah, it's good. Hoping Vienna will get into it. We'll see.
Christina works here.
Does she? That's great. Nice. That's really
Caitlin
awesome.
works here.
Still?
She left during COVID.
Yeah.
And then got married.
Uh-huh.
And then like 2-3 months ago, I got a call. Can I come back?
All right. She's just a
No.
lifeguard?
They raised their pay to $20 an hour, and it's really not hard to find lifeguards. Everybody can. You can't find. You know, well, I
No one
don't
can find
have a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if they pay that well, that's
They
good.
leave, and they said they leave the other day because he got graduated in mechanical engineering, and
Wow.
his starting pay is now way more than I make.
Of course. Of course it is.
How many Olympic size pools are there? Where? This one, University of Buffalo, Tonawanda Aquatic Center, and Santa Maria. They're all indoor facilities. Yeah. Yeah, so those are all. But the golf tournament, the 115 is destroyed here the stadium.
Yeah.
At 59.
Where do you want me, here or there?
Yeah, right here, guys. My niece is boyfriend is sports official over there.
Well,
Yeah, I know what they can do to a club.
yeah, that was pretty impressive. Why don't we come on up? It's Jennifer, right? Yes. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the SUNY Erie Aquatic Center. This building is owned by the people of Erie County and is used almost every day for various purposes, of course, by SUNY Erie for its swim team as well as other uses. And then there's lots of meets that are held. This is in some ways, a tourist attraction because it brings people from across our region here. So we're very pleased to be here. I thank SUNY Erie President Nadim Sagai for allowing us to be here, as well as Vinnie McCarthy, the manager of the pool system here. Just a tremendous asset that we have. We're here to talk about pool safety. Here joined by Jennifer from Deaf Access Services. Of course, you'll hear very soon from our Commissioner of Health, Dr. Gale Burstein, and we're also joined by the Director of the Environmental Health Division, Jennifer Delaney, to talk about pool safety and also an issue that has cropped up in recent weeks that we want people to be aware of, which is illegal in New York State as well as locally, and that is the renting of private pools, backyard pools, or hot tubs for events, and the dangers that can result from that. Recently, apps such as Swimply and others, in more informal ways on Facebook, are allowing or provide owners an opportunity to advertise their backyard pool for rent. I would never have thought of this, but it's actually happening. And what we're seeing is that there are a number of Erie County residents who are advertising, as well as other Western New York residents, advertising their private pools, whether it's an in-ground or above-ground pool, and hot tubs to rent for parties and other types of occasions. And we think it's very important for the public to understand that that's illegal in New York State and carries a lot of significant risk with renting a personal pool for private usage. As you'll hear from Dr. Burstein and Ms. Delaney, the Erie County Department of Health actually is required under New York State law to review and authorize the use of pools for public purposes to ensure that they're meeting all health and safety standards, including the Erie County Sanitary Code. There's a lot of work that goes into it, including ensuring that not only is the pool safe for usage, such that it's meeting the requirements to ensure that the pH levels and other levels are safe, including not having too much chlorine, but also ensuring that there's the appropriate safety mechanisms in place to ensure if something bad should happen at a pool like you see here or the other public pools in our community, that appropriate actions can be immediately taken to ensure that no harm happens to an individual. Unfortunately, this seems to be a growing occasion in our region where individuals think, hey, I'm going to make a few extra bucks. I'm not going to be using my pool that weekend. I'm going to rent it out. And what we're finding out is that this is occurring more often than not. Last year in Rockland County, there was an incident very similar where a family rented out their private pool, their house pool, their private pool, to an event that came in there, and there was a drowning of a child in which the child did survive but suffered some serious long-term effects as a result of it. And what ended up happening of it, of course, are lawsuits and finding out that insurance does not cover if you're using your private pool for a business expense, so to speak, where you're renting it out. So the homeowner is now on the hook for potentially significant loss as a result of renting out their private pool for really what is a business purpose. We want all in our community to know that this not only violates Erie County Sanitary Code, it violates New York State law such that you are at risk of fines of up to $2,000 per violation under New York State law. So if you think I'm going to rent out my pool, make $100 on a weekend, not only are you violating the law and you're at risk for a significant fine, you are putting yourself, your family, and others at risk in case something bad happens where your insurance company may not cover it. And we want public to understand that if you got a private pool and we know it's hot and you want to enjoy it, go out there and enjoy it. But don't put yourself and others at risk by renting it. And the same goes for hot tubs. People unfortunately have died in hot tubs. And it's important that people understand that you're putting yourself, your family at risk financially if you rent out a pool, a hot tub, thinking I'm going to make a few extra bucks on the weekend, and something bad happens where there's a drowning, there's an incident. It's important that the public understand that just because it's on the internet and says you can rent out your private pool doesn't make it legal. And we want the public to understand before any bad incident happens here in Erie County that this is an ongoing issue, and we don't want to see our local residents be put in a bad situation because of a drowning. Now, as you'll hear from Dr. Burstein, when it comes to young children, is it the number one cause now? The number one cause of death among young children is drowning. And if you rent out a pool to who knows who, and they have young children, you don't have a lifeguard, you don't have somebody who's qualified to handle a difficult situation, you could have the worst case scenario happen in your house, at your house. And we don't want to see that at all with regards to the people in our community. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Burstein to talk a little bit more about the procedures that we have in place when we're reviewing public pools to ensure that they are safe for the use by the public, but also what could happen in the worst case situation that we don't want to see happen locally. Dr. Burstein?
Thank you. Thank you. So I'm Gale Burstein, your Erie County Health Commissioner. I'm also a pediatrician and a mother, and I'm going to talk to you about pool safety. So, you know, we've had some really hot days this summer, and swimming for recreation and relaxation is a great way to cool off and get some exercise. And actually, I personally swim almost every single day. But swimming also poses risks for injury, waterborne illnesses, and drowning, especially when there are children or people with mobility issues spending time in and around swimming pools, hot tubs, and bodies of water. So improperly treated and disinfected pools can lead to disease transmission and chemical reactions. If no restroom is available for use by swimmers and guests when, say, people are renting, there are concerns for human waste can be left in and around pool areas, which is pretty gross. And pools and decks that have construction or engineering deficiencies can cause injuries. So imagine a pool deck like collapsing under the weight of too many guests, or a slip and fall hazard that causes a concussion or traumatic brain injury. And our permitting process includes lifeguards and chlorine and chemical requirements, signage and safety plans, all designed to protect swimmers. And this is for public accessing pools. So our County Department of Health is if you have any questions, is at 716-961-6800. We've also communicated to local, we also are talking about what the American Academy of Pediatrics also offers for precautions against injury and drowning. So number one, assign a water watcher. So a watcher is watching all children swimming in and playing in or near a swimming pool, not just in the pool, but near the swimming pool. And even if they know how to swim, and even if there's a lifeguard on board. So this person should be 100% focused on supervising swimmers, should not be under the influence of cannabis or other drugs or alcohol, and should put down his or her cell phone while they're on duty. So number two, life jackets. Putting your child in a properly fitted U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket when around or near the water, such as when visiting a home with a pool, is really important. Water wings can fall off, especially when jumping in the pool. They don't cut it. Swim lessons, number three. The AEP recommends swim lessons as a layer of protection against drowning that can begin for many children, sometimes as young as the age of 1 if they're ready. You should talk to your pediatrician about swimming lesson readiness. Parents can also take swimming lessons so they know how to protect their kids. Number four, CPR training. Parents, caregivers, and pool owners should know CPR and how to get emergency help. Keep equipment approved by the U.S. Coast Guard, such as life preservers and life jackets, at the pool site. You can see erie.gov/CPR for more information. And check the water first. If a child is missing, look for them in the pool or the spa first. This is especially important if your child is prone to watering. So for the average property owner, the safety and liability risks are not worth the benefits of renting your pool out to strangers. There are safe public pool options, spray parks, beaches, and other places to swim and enjoy the cool water. So our website at erie.gov/staycool has a partial list of places that the county to keep cool in hot weather. And it's searchable by location, and we recommend calling ahead for hours and availability. So we've also, just about the pool rental, we've also communicated to local code enforcement officers that the current regulations around public swimming pools and our environmental health division is available for any questions. So as a reminder to anyone who has a swimming pool or hot tub, you have to be aware and focused on reducing the risk of injury and illness and drowning. So to prevent waterborne illness and chemical exposures, pool owners should keep equipment like pumps in good working order and test pool chlorine content regularly. And do a visual inspection of the pool and inside and out, and remove any tripping hazards. So when you and your family and friends use a pool, be vigilant about supervising swimmers. As the county executive said, drownings are preventable and they can happen in just seconds, and they're the leading cause of death for children aged 1 to 4 years old, and the second leading cause of death of unintentional injury for death for children 5 to 14 years old. And drowning can happen in seconds and is often silent. It can happen to anyone, anytime, and they access the water. And many childhood drownings can happen in home swimming pools. And for every child under the age of 18 who dies from drowning, another 7 receive emergency department care for non-fatal drownings. Nearly 40% of drownings treating an emergency department require a hospital stay or transfer for further care. This is 4 times higher than the number of other unintentional injuries that require follow-up care. So swimmers or divers who survive a drowning or head injury, they can have permanent neurologic and physical disability, and they're all preventable. So some other great resources that we have, our Office of Health Equity has some great information on, it's called on our website, Let's Get Ready for Summer Heat. It's a newsletter, and we should have copies with us here. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has good safety tips on healthy swimming. And of course, the American Academy of Pediatrics, their healthychildren.org, has great information to prevent drowning. So with that, I know, Jennifer, if you want to mention anything?
You covered it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. B. I get child fatality reports of all accidental or other deaths in Erie County, and I have to admit, every year I've gotten at least one that has a drowning. And these are terrible situations. It can happen anywhere. It can happen outside in a pond. It can happen in the greatest, nicest in-ground pool that's put in the backyard of a very wealthy family, because it's happened. I've seen it. And unfortunately, we had one little child die during the blizzard last year at a hotel. When the parents who lost power moved to the hotel, they took their kids there, they went swimming, and unfortunately one small child died from a drowning. And we don't want to see that with any situation at all, of course, and we want the general public to understand it's illegal to rent your backyard pool, whether it's above ground, underground, in-ground I should say, or just a hot tub. It's illegal, and not only are you subject to a fine, but the worst case situation could happen, in which it will be a terrible situation to deal with in the future. And we want people to understand that just because it's on an app, it doesn't make it legal. With that, we'll open up to any questions.
That would be a great question for the emergency departments. So again, we just unfortunately only see the child fatality reports, and we don't see the emergency department visits.
I will note that once we learned about this issue with the apps, we did a quick search and we found out about the problem that happened in Rockland County last year with the drowning of the child. So I'm not aware of any right now in Erie County. It's not to say it didn't happen, just not aware of it. And one of the reasons we're holding this press conference is to get notice out to the public so we avoid that situation from happening.
Are these apps used predominantly for renting out your pool?
The one is the Swimply. Yeah, it's rent out pools. It's not like you're renting out a house. And there are on Facebook, in the Facebook local marketplace, people are advertising, hey, if you want to rent a pool, you can rent mine. So the Swimply is specifically to rent pools, hot tubs, and then Facebook Marketplace and other types of online applications are doing something similar. And it might be legal elsewhere in the United States, but it's not legal in New York State.
Has the number of people that this would apply to, that's Swiftly specifically, from looking at the app previously, there's only like 6 locations registered in Western New York, one of which is in Erie County. Is that this big of an issue, or?
Well, that means there's 6 individuals that are violating the law, and we want people to know. They probably don't even realize it. I think that's the thing that's when I'm reading up on what happened in Rockland County, is that the owner of that pool didn't even realize they were violating the law. Didn't find out until an unfortunate incident, and then their insurance is like, we don't cover that type of risk. And we want the public to understand that there may be 6 right now. That changes. It's not. We tried to contact and get in touch with the individuals, not with all success. It sounds like you have to try to actually rent it to find out more about the actual location. So we're just trying to get this information out to the public so that they understand. We know that it's been hot. It's been real hot for our region, and it's going to get hotter now that we're coming into the dog days of summer. And people are going to be thinking, I really want to go swimming. I don't want to go to the public pool. Hey, maybe I could go rent some neighbor's pool. And we just want people to understand, don't even attempt to do that. And if you own a pool, don't put it out there for rent.
The way the system's set up currently, and it's one of the requirements for public pools, I mean, they're the same level for a private pool in the backyard to a pool that an entire neighborhood would go up to. Is that they're treated equally in that
Well, we don't go and actually review private pools. We're not obligated to do that. Public pools we are. I'll ask Jennifer just to talk a little bit more about what is required by our department when we're actually going out there and reviewing and testing pools. So Jennifer Delaney.
Thank you. So yes, for public pools and private pools, the construction standards aren't necessarily the same. When it comes to private pools, most manufacturers aren't as concerned about flow rates and entrapment hazards and things like having enough deck all the way around to ensure emergency services can access all points on the pool. There's certain things too with outdoor pools, how fast chlorine dissipates and how slowly it dissipates. Filters need to be changed regularly. A lot of that isn't built into the standard residential backyard pool because it's limited use to just your family and friends. So it's a different level needed there. Whereas with public pools, it's much more stringent. You know, we are concerned about flow rates and depths. And, you know, if you have a diving board or a slide, is your pool deep enough for that? Or is there a potential that a taller person or even a child may actually get to the bottom and hit their head? You know, there's other concerns there. There's signage requirements. We do have lifeguarding requirements for the larger pools. And some of the smaller pools that are not at homeowners associations and things like that.
My nephew is actually a lifeguard at a homeowners association in the summer when he comes back from college in Orchard Park, and he has a complete training that he has to do, not just CPR. And he tells me the stories about what goes on, and most of the time it's really good, but sometimes he's got to be like, hey, I got to deal with an issue, or someone's in a pool who in a depth that they shouldn't be at because they're not qualified, they just can't swim, and that's a trained lifeguard. We train our lifeguards at our beaches to ensure that the safety is paramount. When the lifeguard's in the chair, their responsibility is to scan everything and ensure that there's no issues. And they've had every year, lifeguards have to go out to rescue individuals. You're doing a private pool, there's no lifeguards. There's probably no safety mechanism. There's probably no safety ring. And that's why we just want public to understand that it sounds like a great idea. I never would have thought people would be renting their houses. I'm old. I would have never thought 20 years ago that people would be renting their houses to others for parties and things like that, but that happens now. And I never would have thought people renting their pools and their hot tubs, but it happens now. And we want the public to understand that there are a lot of risks involved with that, especially for the homeowner in case something bad happens. And just right off the bat, you're violating the law. And if you think you're going to make a couple $100 on a weekend, but you're going to get $2,000 per violation, it's not worth it. Any other questions? Sure.
Erie County has a lot of really nice outdoor assets, parks, what have you. Do you know if you have any thoughts on that? Or while the doctor's here, any thoughts about what people should bear in mind or think about if they're going to be outside or they should be outside?
Air quality, of course, changed as of yesterday evening. I think we all saw the red sun. I was wondering if Superman would be able to fly because it's a red sun. It's a comic book geek thing. And it just showed that the smoke hazard is back. As of this morning, we were in the unhealthy category, which means for people with heart and lung conditions, as well as young children, teens, and older adults, they should avoid strenuous exercise or strenuous work outside. I'll let the doctor talk more about it, but this might be the new normal, and it's not a great normal. It's not something that we want to deal with. I have to admit, I left my back door, upper deck door open last night, as I often do in the summer, just to let the cool air in. And I woke up this morning and I was kind of like, oh, that was probably not a good idea, because now the air in my house has that little smoke tinge to it. My eyes were itchy. I was like, that wasn't a smart thing to do. And I'm just reminding people that this is probably the new normal. So, doctor?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's in unhealthy air quality conditions. I mean, there are people that are more vulnerable to the effects of poor air quality. So, as the county executive mentioned, children, older adults, people with, anybody of any age with any type of chronic heart or lung conditions. We have a lot of people here that have cardiovascular disease, a lot of people have asthma, COPD, so they're very vulnerable. Also, pregnant people are very vulnerable, and also, and any of us can succumb to symptoms of poor air quality. So if you ever are out and especially exerting yourself when there's poor air quality, if you don't have any of those conditions, you might get a lot of irritation, irritated eyes, nose, and throat. You might develop a cough with phlegm. Some people even develop some tight chestness and difficulty breathing. And then people with these conditions, they go outside and they think, oh, I'm going to be fine, nothing bad's going to happen. The bad effects can happen like that. So in these times of poor air quality, it's best to limit your outdoor activities, especially you're one of these vulnerable populations. And then also, if you do go outside, make sure that you, try to refrain from strenuous activity and limit the amount of time. N95 masks can help, although it's it's not a cure-all, and don't be deceived by the protectiveness of N95s for air quality. So they will help, but they're not fully protected, unlike for COVID. So just we want people to be careful and think smart. So think about earlier in the morning, the air quality is usually at its best for the day. So thinking about if you're going to go outside and exert any activity, try very earlier in the morning, because usually then the air quality just deteriorates for the rest of the day. But if you have any questions, any concerns, call your healthcare provider. We have good information on our county website. CDC has good information. Air.gov has great information, and you can keep up to date with our own air quality. So it's something that we unfortunately have to pay attention to, and I'm afraid it's the new normal, at least for this year.
Okay, if there's no further questions, I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you for joining us, and once again, thank you to the team from SUNY Erie, Vinnie McCarthy and others for opening up the pool, which I guess there's a big meet coming up later this weekend, as there's always big meets here. Thank you for opening up this pool, which has much higher levels of standards than your backyard pool. Take care, everyone.